This is a good question to start and hard to answer because if you look for PCV2 on the scientific databases, you will find like 550 publications in the last recent 5 years. So there's not one thing that's very important. There might be quite a lot of things that are very important. For me personally, I think it's amazing that a very small change in the genome of a virus that is very small too leads to such big concerns in the swine industry concerning vaccination, efficacy of vaccines. So one of the most important discoveries should be like that the vaccines work in the field, but although they work in the field, we have problems due to new genotype. And this is more an epidemiological question than the question of the vaccines. Actually, we don't know how PCV2 is moving in the whole world because we discovered PCV2D in 2010 in China and then 2012 in the United States, the same genotype with 99.9% homology. And we don't know how it gets there, but we can estimate that it moves with pig transportation, with pig trading, with semen trading, and maybe with the food, but we certainly do not know how it moves. But one thing that seems to be obvious that because most of the pigs are vaccinated against PCV2 in Europe, this seems to decelerate the speed of vaccination in Europe. So it's not a very fast spread of the virus like in 2004, 2005 with PCV2A to B. This time it moves a little bit slower. Well, PCV3 is not very new, but it's now newly discovered in association with diseases in the United States. But in Europe, we're not quite sure if we really can associate PCV3 with diseases already, because we don't have a virus isolate to conduct a challenge. And there was no challenge until now. But as PCV3 can be found in Asia, Europe, in North America, we believe that PCV3 is more or less very widespread in the whole pig population all over the world. So it can be of interest in the future, but until we don't know what is the most important thing about it, we can't say. So unless we don't have a challenge strain to reproduce disease or to characterize what's happening if you infect a pig with PCV3, we don't really know about the significance we will have in the future. Well, the most important thing is that we don't find PCV2 diseases that much in the farms because most of the farms are vaccinated. But what we don't see are those subclinical infections and even viremia in pigs that are vaccinated that occur late in the fattening. And we recognize that PCV2 viremia in the late fattening might contribute to higher lung lesions, for example, in the fattening pigs. But as you don't see clinical PCVD, clinical disease, you don't think about it, that PCV2 might be that important. So concerning routine diagnostics, I think it's an underestimated problem in the pig population. So as I said before, viremia mostly occurs in the late fattening. In Europe, between the 16th and the 20th week of age, although they are vaccinated or they're not vaccinated. So late fattening pigs might be endangered. And as gilts are more or less late fattening pigs, I believe that gilts are also very endangered by PCV2 infection, although they're not clinically ill, but they contribute to endemic infections of PCV2 in sow herds. There is actually a difference, and you can measure it, and we measure it quite easily by antibodies, for example. And we recognize that the prevalence of the zero prevalence of PCV2 in sow herds is surprisingly low sometimes, between 20 to 50%. That means in sow herds you have low immunity status. So measured by antibodies, we recognize a quite low seroprevalence and low immunity in sow herds. And what we also see is that the immune status of gilts or fattening pigs is more or less the same, and we recognize that they get viremic even if they are vaccinated. Not that much, like 7 to 12% of those pigs get viremic, but this might contribute also to endemic infections in sawherds. Concerning suckling piglets, this is always hard to say because we have the maternal immunity that is transferred to the piglets and that lasts, for example, until 5 to 12 weeks. It depends on the dose of maternal immunity that was transferred by colostrum. But as I said, the most endangered population are the fattening pigs. I think that the immune status of those pigs that have colostrum transferred by the sows are quite well protected. And it gets down until beginning of fattening, and from beginning of fattening, the chance to find viremic pigs is very high again.